So we're down here at the Poole Hobie Centre, and I'm with Kris, and we're going to be showing you today how to install the new Lowrance HDS live transducer on the new Hobie 19 Outback. And we've got the Hobie Guardian transducer installation here, so stand by and we'll show you how we do it. So this is the Lowrance Active 3-in-1 transducer that we're going to be installing today. And one of the things that you'll need is this bit here, which is called a bump protector, and this fits on the front of the transducer, and you'll find this in your Hobie Outback 19. Okay, so this is the actual bump protector that you'll need for the HDS Active 3-in-1 transducer. So this protects this when it goes on the Hobie Guardian underneath, just gives you an extra level of protection at the front. We're just loosening 3 screws so we can take the Guardian cover off.
There you go.
The idea is that we use the backing plate that came with the Lowrance, and we use that to work out where the holes are going to go on here, so that we can insert some bolts and then basically put the transducer on, and then the bolts will go through from the other side and attach the transducer to the Guardian.
So next bit we're going to do is feed the transducer cable through the bump protection which we've put in now. Then we're going to situate the transducer roughly in place once it's fed through, then use a pencil then to draw around the transducer just to get a rough marking of where it's going to be, then put the plate over, mark where those holes are going to go, drill through, and then we'll actually then be able to attach the transducer from there. So we're just going to feed it through and get the whole lot on. No problem. So we've got bump protector on, the cable's been threaded through, and you can see you've got 2 holes already which come through, and you can see there. So all you're going to use out of all 6 is just going to be these back 4 holes here which you're going to use. So all we're going to do now is push that tight up against, turn it over, and this is where you're going to need to get your alignment on. If you have rulers and things like that to hand, it will be a lot easier. But all we're going to do is just eye it up, get it completely flat and straight, all the way down, and then just take your pencil, remember to sharpen it first, draw around the transducer, like so. So now we actually have, if you can see, there's a very fine pencil line which now we can use to get this in place and find out where these drill holes are going to be, and we're going to drill through and then we'll be able to install the transducer. So what we're quickly doing now is just transferring the centre hole lines onto the side of the transducer. So when we put the transducer over the trace line which we've drawn out on the outside, you can actually see, and then on there, exactly where the drill lines are, or the hole spacings are, so we can transfer. So when we put the plate on, we know exactly where the centre of the holes are going to be. Okay, so now we've taken the transducer and bump plate out of the way. That leaves us then to use the metal plate, which we're going to line up, and because we've taken the transfer lines on the side of the transducer and then marked them straight across here, we know that left to right we can go like that. Same with the back, line up all of the horizontal lines across, make sure they're pretty much neat and perfect, get the plate neat and perfect, and then you're going to use the inside holes which are on the plate, and that's all 4 of those. So now, pretty faint so I don't know if you're going to see it, but now we've got 4 marks on our Guardian plate of actually where to drill. So that's the next bit, drilling.
There we go. Excellent, looking good. All attached. Just tightening up the the bolts going into the transducer. Kris has attached the transducer to the Guardian, and you can see it's all screwed in there, and we've got the bump pad on the front, and now we're going to attach the mechanism that lifts the Guardian up and down and retracts it and pushes it back the other way. So we've just threaded the transducer back up from underneath through the Guardian hole that's in the hull on the underside, and Kris is just unscrewing the screws on the Guardian plate cover so we can attach it.
So for knot positioning, what we're going to do is, if you imagine there's a flat line going completely across the deck of the boat here, we're going to start off with just a little overhand knot, which we're going to make roughly, I don't know if you can see it there, roughly about sort of 2 to 3 centimeters just above where my hand's going to fall across that flat point. We're then going to take the loop which is actually on the transducer cover, and again just do another overhand knot just here. So what's going to happen is your first overhand knot is going to bite on the second, so it's almost like a loose fitting Palomar, and all you're going to do is just slide that round to the center point of the loop, gently lower it into position. Now, one of the key points to remember with this is when you start to thread through your transducer cable is don't pull your transducer cable too tight through this portion of the hull here. It still needs to be reasonably slack. You've got to remember this is moving up and down as well. If it's too tight, what's going to happen is it's going to preload the front like that, so you can see how it's dipping down. So you need to make sure that that tension on the transducer cable is not too much. You want that full freedom and play. And that there pretty much is exact. So just remember 2 to 3 centimeters off the top of your hand, and that should then be your knot set. Last part we need to do on the bottom now is just to reinsert the 3 screws, and then it's ready to play with the top section.
So Kris has done the transducer installation, okay, and we've got the Guardian now in place, and we're just going to give it a quick check by pulling on the toggle, and as you can see it retracts the transducer so it's flush and then releases it. So you can see that, you know, it's spring loaded, and when he releases the toggle it goes back up into its normal position. So that's how you'd have the fish finder when it's the transducer when it's actually working, and then when it retracts you avoid any rocks or anything so you don't hit the transducer. So now all we've got to do is thread the transducer and the power cables through the glands on the hull of the kayak. So we've got one here for the transducer, and we've got one here for the power, and then that's it, job done. We've threaded the cables through using the glands, and Kris has used the correct size for the cable that's gone through. So as you can see, it matches the cable size, and you get a choice of these, so make sure you pick the right ones. And you can see we've done the same with the power cable and the transducer cable as well. And the power cable in particular has actually got 2 wires, so you need to pick one of the spacers that's got the 2 gaps in it.
And just something for you if you're relatively new to installing stuff on plastic kayaks, especially using self-tappers on the plastic, where you've taken a self-tapper out and you're going to be putting it back in again, just make sure that as you go to tighten it, you're not going to be over tightening it, otherwise you're just going to pull all the thread of the plastic out. So it just has to go in just so it's tight, just nip it up, and that will be enough. Don't be tempted to over tighten it and try and keep going and going as you just strip the thread.
So that's it, we've shown you how to install the Lowrance HDS Live and the transducer, and showed you the benefits of the Hobie Guardian transducer shield as well. It's a really simple installation and it's a great fish finder. Thanks very much for watching.